This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
And today we are doing a normal, regular, recorded podcast. But on January 1st, we will start doing live podcasts only. Follow us on twitch.tv/Most Valuable Podcast, right? Is that Most Valuable Pod on that one?
Yeah, it's Most Valuable Podcast.
Most Valuable Podcast on Twitch. Ricky bought a sweet, nice new computer, mainly because his other one broke. But this one will also allow us to stream more. And we will be starting that 2020, January 1st, live podcast. Mainly, they will
still
be
live
on
YouTube.
Yeah, they'll still be posted.
You can watch us now
on
It's like
typical
January 4th, then pretty much.
Yeah, for us, but the official,
the 2020 calendar year.
Technically,
The year
what's your
of live.
fantasy? What's your fantasy
Oh.
could be the first one because we record those on Wednesdays.
Oh,
There you go.
Yet again, I don't know if Brandon's got anything New Year's Day.
okay. Yeah. How so will Brandon be New Year's Day?
That too.
Anyways, the podcast where you get them won't change like post fact. So like you still get them on YouTube, you still get them on Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, hopefully Spotify soon
Yes.
too. I know that's still in the works. But yeah, that will not change. But then you can just watch us live and interact with us. So twitch.tv/Most Valuable Podcast. And make sure you also follow us on Twitter @Most Valuable Pod. If anything is going to change in the schedule that we make, we will let you know on twitter.com/Most Valuable Pod. But today we have some news to talk about. David Fizdale was fired as the New York Knicks coach. Kevin Love is now in trade rumors. And we're going to talk a little bit about just the ongoings of the NBA. Bucks are red hot. Lakers have been good. Both teams at 20 wins right now. Can he get to 70? We'll talk about that. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, as always, as well. But let's jump into the main news, the headline story. David Fizdale was dismissed as head coach of the New York Knicks, according to a report by Adrian Wojnarowski, and pretty much it was confirmed by everyone else right after Woj tweeted it out. Fizdale, who was with the Knicks for 18 months, is the latest to pass through the Madison Square Garden's continuously revolving doors of head coaches. There is a list of the 18 coaches that have gone through in the past year, and it's Jeff Van Gundy, Mike D'Antoni, David Fizdale, Jeff Hornacek, Derek Fisher, Kurt Rambis, Mike Woodson, Isaiah Thomas, Larry Brown, Herb Williams, Lenny Wilkins, and Don Chaney. Those are all of the coaches that have coached the Knicks pretty much in my lifetime. I think you just got to throw in one more to complete the list. But that's the James Dolan Knicks for you. Ricky, let's start off with just reactions first before we get into who's taken over, what this team's going to look like for the rest of 2019 and 2020. Let's just talk about main reaction first. When you saw that David Fizdale was fired, you thought,
Holy shit, it happened. Like, I didn't think this was going to be something that happened until, like, I know we talked about before on the podcast where they're kind of sowing the seeds. They're planting the seeds for a Fizdale firing, but I didn't think they were actually going to do it this soon. Like, if it happened during the season, maybe trade deadline or after. It's one of those things where it's like, holy crap, it happened, and now we got to talk about the Knicks and what they do moving forward.
and here's the guy that I've been waiting to hear from, because I've been at work, so I haven't seen much from Dave about this. We haven't talked about this move. I did see the one thing in Discord that you did say. I saw this immediately, and I said, Dave got his wish. What was your first reaction walking out of work seeing this news?
Finally. I couldn't have been happier for another man to get fired in my life. I don't think I've been happier. And I know that sounds horrible to say out loud, but it is necessary. It was something that we've been waiting for. Literally,
Was it necessary, though?
it was very necessary.
Okay.
There's no way you move forward as a team with David Fizdale as a head coach. Like, when they hired him, I was like, cool, there's a great opportunity for him. I thought, maybe he was shortchanged out of the Memphis situation. But I looked at, the results he had early on, and you look at where the team was going. You look at the player development. You look at the lack thereof player development, I should say. You look at the horrible offensive sets. You look at the ISO ball heavy. You look at the defense switching on everything and just horrible scheming. And I'm like, this man is in way over his head. It was clear early on. But I get it. You can't flip coaches every year because you look like a bad organization.
But would he call a timeout and then sub 5 new players in?
Let's stop. Let's keep it in on Knicks only. We don't need to bring the
I'm
Bulls
just saying
in here.
Fizdale's not as bad as you might think.
We'll talk about it. Let's hear Dave's reactions.
But this is massive because this is the start of, I'm hoping, cleaning house for the Knicks organization. I think that moving on from David Fizdale is great. I think that they also fired one of his assistant coaches as well. The names escape me right now. But it's the start of something, and now the thing is they're all saying, well, Steve Mills is on the hot seat now. And I'm like, oh, this could actually be an organization changer for this Knicks team, and I love that in theory because this is a team that I want to see RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, guys like even Kevin Knox to a lesser extent, but Frank, those kind of young talented players. I want to see this team succeed. I want to see them do great things. I hate Knicks fans because they're the perpetual, we're gonna sign these guys, we're gonna kill the league year over year over year. It doesn't happen. But every year they think to themselves, that's what's gonna happen.
Some could say the same about us, Dave. Let's be honest.
We know we don't sign people. That's the
No.
difference as a
I'm
Bulls
saying
fan.
another thing. Hey, we're gonna make the playoffs, and then we don't. So
there is
people
that.
can have.
No, I was joking more about the KD, Kyrie, and Zion
KD's
Williamson.
coming to New York. We're gonna get Zion. We're getting them all.
That bullshit.
It's the Mecca.
The Carmelo Anthony shit, all of it. I get it. Y'all got the love for the team. That's the thing. That city loves their team through and through. So I want them to have a good team. I want them to have a well-run organization. We all know Dolan is a huge problem, but you know what? If they can move on from a piece like David Fizdale, his assistant coach, and if they clear out Steve Mills, whew.
Well, let's fill out all the facts that were thrown out there
Thank
as
you.
well. Today, head coach David Fizdale and assistant coach Keith Smart were relieved of their coaching duties. Assistant coach Mike Miller, not that Mike Miller. This Mike Miller is 55 years old. He will now be the interim head coach. Miller joined the Knicks coaching staff this season after 4 years at the helm of the Westchester Knicks. He led the Westchester Knicks to a 108-92 mark and was the 2017-2018 Dennis Johnson Coach of the Year. Also, 34 minutes ago, former NBA player Keith Bogans was announced as a new assistant coach for the New York Knicks. He was previously a assistant coach for Westchester. But let's get into the Steve Mills part now as well, because I think that's something that is going to be an interesting part about this, and where they're going to go with that. He's been a part of the organization, I believe, since 2003.
Was it 3?
I think he's been working with Dolan since 2003. Mills then became chief operating officer and sports business president of Madison Square Garden in 2003. That's a Dolan company.
He was officially the executive vice president in 2013.
Okay, I've seen 14 years thrown around.
He's been around Dolan for.
Yeah, I think he's been around a very long time, at least around James Dolan, and this just seems exactly like. Similar to John Paxson, both guys former players. Obviously, Paxson had a much more successful career than Steve Mills had. Not a shot at Mills, but just the truth. But a guy that has been around since 2003, since the start of LeBron, and really hasn't had that much success, but has been tied to the organization because of their tie to the owner and the loyalty the owner has to this person. Frank Isola is reporting that Knicks changes won't end with David Fizdale and that Steve Mills is finally on the hot seat. I think that you touched upon it, Dave, that if they do make a move away from Steve Mills, it could show the sign of something new. And I think that this is what the Knicks need. They need a fresh start. And David Fizdale, some people were saying he got a bad rap and he didn't get a fair shot. And that could be absolutely true. I don't think he got a great roster to take over. However, I also don't think he was making the necessary changes to fit the roster to be successful. I think he was trying to make his ideals work, which is fine, but I don't think he was trying to make the roster work. And in the way of ISO heavy ball, at least in today's game, is not going to work unless you have these dominant players like a James Harden. I mean, you need specific players to play that type of way, and he didn't have those type of guys.
Square box, round hole.
Exactly.
It's just not going to fit, and the lack of creativity on the court I completely blame on him, and that's part of the problem, like you're saying.
And I don't think Mike Miller is going to be the name that is going to be the future Knicks head coach. He's an interim head coach. He was a G League coach for a while. He's 55 years old. I don't think he's going to be a guy that is going to be at the at the front of the bench for the Knicks at the start of 2020, 2021. So I think it's going to be cleaning of the head coaching and the coaching staff. I think it's going to be a cleaning of Steve Mills. I think Scott Perry might still get a chance to be the general manager. I don't think I've hated all of his moves. I don't think the free agent signings have been iffy, but I think it's tough to make big splashes when James Dolan is your owner, and that's going to be the toughest thing that they're going to have to overcome, because even if they clean out the front office, even if they clean out the head coaching staff, even just coaching staff in general, even if they clean out the roster, James Dolan is still your owner, and that's the biggest problem for Knicks fans. Knicks fans are passionate as hell.
Yeah.
They deserve a winner. Haven't had a winner since 1973, and it's probably extremely frustrating to be going through this again, another coaching change over 18 years, and you hired a guy that at least had a lot of credentials in the NBA, and you didn't give him a full fair shot. I don't think, again, Fizdale ran with it, but I think if you're going to actually make it work in New York with James Dolan as the owner, he needs to step away and he needs to clear his friends out of this organization.
Yeah.
So even then, that might mean Scott Perry needs to go as well, because he has the stench of a Steve Mills, because they worked together for 2 years. So I think for everything to work out, you need to pretty much go on a cleanse diet. You need to remove everything from the system. And the head might still stay the same. The body still might stay the same. You still might be the New York Knicks in Madison Square Garden with James Dolan as your owner, but all the insides need to change. And, maybe the roster stays around and stuff like that, but that stuff can be easily changed, and we see roster turnover happen very quickly. So I think it needs to be flushed in New York, and I think that's mainly because James Dolan has gotten this franchise into such a complete shithole that you need to have a hard reset on this franchise. And luckily, James Dolan has the money to make that happen if they're able to go get big free agent splashes. The thing is, though, kind of a weak free agency class. But I threw out a lot there. Where do you want to jump off, Rick?
For me, the thing that I can't help but think of is I kind of feel like I know where a New York Knicks fan feels right now, except my team hasn't made the same push.
We're in similar fields.
You're talking about it, and I'm like, I'm feeling the same way about my team.
Here's the thing, though. You're feeling it right now, but also just picture back when the last time they had a good team. Who was beating their good team?
Us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you don't exactly know how it feels, because you didn't have Jordan.
I'm saying the whole, you're not happy with your coach, you want to fire the GM, but the owner is like, I feel like I'm right in line with you. But this has been
happening
for years.
Yeah. And that's the issue.
And for me, it's just the whole thing of, do they have to move on from Steve Mills? Yes. Because you got to cut it all out. I agree with your cleanse stuff, but the thing is, who are you going to bring in? And also, the thing that I think is going to be interesting in the coaching search is how candidates are going to feel about this job. Because, the whole one that I bring in as the example to this is Becky Hammon. Immediately, everyone was jumping all over, okay, Becky Hammon is interested in the job. She played for the New York Liberty when she was in the WNBA. But the thing that's important is she's even said that, hey, I'm only interested if I can get a long-term deal, which people are thinking is 4 to 5 years. And I'm sitting there thinking, she can't be the only one. How many candidates are probably for example, I'll use Hammond still. I'm going to leave the Spurs, which I'm pretty set here as an assistant coach.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave to come to your team, and then what, in 2 years I'm done?
Yeah,
if I can't win in one, and that's the Fizdale part that I feel like he was unjustly fired, because do you expect him to turn it over in 1 year?
Yeah, but even it was 18 months. But even then, I mean, he's still got a 4-year contract. He's still going to get paid.
Exactly.
So, and I love the joke that I did a year and a half's work, but I'm getting 4 years pay. That's good for David Fizdale.
We're still paying out former head coaches too. We know how that is.
But I mean, if you're a coach looking at that job, how can you commit to a team that has, and that's why Mills, I think, has to go, because if I'm in an interview with him and he's interviewing me for the job and he's like, oh yeah, we're going to 4 years, it's I don't believe a word you say because of how many coaches you've canned not even halfway through their contract.
But people are still going to take that job, and respectable head coaches have taken that job because they think that they're the. I mean, head coaches have egos too. They still think
I could be the one to fix it.
Exactly, and still, money's money. If it does work out, you're going to make a lot of money in New York if you start winning. So it's worth the risk because the reward is so big. And worst things worse is you get fired and get money. Like Mike D'Antoni got fired, still got a job, and now is still a top 10 coach in the league. Clearly, it's not showing that if you go to New York, you're going to get exposed or anything like that. It's probably the opposite. You're probably going to be still seen as a very good head coach. Rick Carlisle said an hour ago, and this is per Brad Townsend, writer for the Dallas Morning News, that Rick Carlisle said, I'm happy for Fizdale to be out of that terrible mess that he had nothing to do with. So, I mean, NBA coaches know right now that this wasn't Fizdale's fault.
Yeah.
However, what I do want to say is I don't think Becky Hammon's the person for this job. And that's not because she doesn't have the credentials or anything like that. I think she is going to be the first women head coach in the NBA, and rightfully so.
But she'll probably be for the Spurs. Like when Pop leaves,
I don't know about
come up through that system.
I don't know about that.
There's a couple of people who are still in contention for that, I would say.
I think I don't think it's Becky's job right now to take over for Pop because I don't know when Pop is going to even leave. So that could, Becky could jump ship earlier and get a job sooner.
She was in talks when we were talking about before Bud got the job in Milwaukee.
She was for Milwaukee. But I don't think Becky's the person for the job. I think that it could possibly change the culture massively having the first women head coach there. But what I think I've said was with the Budenholzer thing is if for the first woman to get the first woman to get the an NBA head coaching job, I don't want her to be in a shit situation. I don't want her to be in a position to fail, and that's exactly what that Knicks job is because I don't want Becky Hammon to be then, bashed by fucking morons out there being like, see, a woman can't coach in the NBA. It's like, no, she went to the Knicks who change coaches every single year.
Yeah.
What I think they need is a complete culture changer and a guy that's going to at least shock everything. And I think that's got to be Tom Thibodeau. I mean, this is a guy that is a hard ass. This is a guy that is just, way too over the top. This is a guy that is going to work his players to the bone. And I think it's something that it can at least set a culture there, and it might be something that is too extreme, but I think you need to at least get away from you have to at least have a guy that is going to put hard work out there, and I think that could be a guy that could set some players on the right role because right now you don't have a superstar, and we've seen Tom Thibodeau have the ability to make superstars before, and I think he might be the guy that if you give him, although we did see he didn't work well with the young players out in Minnesota, he still got him in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think that he is a guy that at least will work guys with talent to the bone. And I'm not saying Becky Hammon's not a person that can do this. I don't know what Becky can do as a head coach. She deserves a job.
Yeah.
But Thibs is a guy that has had a head coaching job before, and we've seen that, whether it be Chicago, whether it be Minnesota, he's able to turn those teams into playoff teams. And we know that he can take talent and at least work their ass off to put them in a spot to be successful. I think Tibbs in New York could possibly get over the Dolan hump of massive control because himself is a control freak.
Yeah.
If the owner's going to be a psychopath, make the head coach a psychopath as well.
Match fire with fire.
Exactly. Because worse things worse, it's going to be hilarious.
I kind of, I did not see that coming all, Sean. You guys probably saw my reaction if you're watching on YouTube. I was just like, say what now? But you sort of explained it, and I'm like, I kind of like where this could be going because if you put someone in there who, like you said, he's all about work effort, and toughness, and he's going to play those guys out, 30-plus minutes a game.
But who would he play? He don't play young players.
No, he doesn't play rookies.
Yeah, and that's the thing where it's like, what? I'm going to draft in the for this year. I'm going to draft in the top 3, and you're not going to play him.
He's
like that's Tom Thibodeau.
He's going to play him because that team doesn't have better options. That's the difference. Like when you were on the Timberwolves, you didn't have the options. When you're on the Bulls, you had better options. So I think with this Knicks team, I think if Tom Thibodeau did get the chance at this job, his pitch would be, I can turn R.J. Barrett into an more offensively gifted version of Jimmy Butler. Well, I can run my offense through him, let him be the guy who is the do-it-all. He can create, he can pass, he can rebound. Let him be the main piece of that team, and then work the pieces around him.
And I want to clarify this, too. I don't think that Tom Thibodeau is the future, the answer at head coach. And I don't think you need an answer right now with the Knicks because you are in such a despair place where I'm saying you need to clean out the entire system and culture. I think he would be a similar hire to Mark Jackson in Golden State. A little bit different because Golden State was not in the same place that the New York Knicks were because you had Don Nelson there previously, who was a fantastic head coach. They had success in 2007 too, obviously with the magical run with Baron Davis, the 8 seeds upsetting the number 1 seed Mavericks. They weren't as bad as a state as the Knicks were. But Mark Jackson was a guy that brought professionalism and helped these young players grow and work their asses off.
He can right the ship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think Thibodeau might be able to do that and at least right the ship to a right place and then hire the guy to then take that team to the next level. I don't think Thibodeau is a next level NBA head coach, NBA championship winning coach. And I don't think he's right for today's NBA, but I do think he's right in getting teams on the right track. And I think that is what was shown in Minnesota is I think you at least showed the ability of, they brought in a guy like Jimmy Butler. They were lucky to. But they at least showed Wiggins and Talent how to work and how to work cleanly. And although it didn't work out and it kind of blew up in their face in Minnesota because of Jimmy, it's still clearly working out because now they found the right guy in Ryan Saunders, who was already on the team. He learned from Tom Thibodeau, and right now this team looks like in a good spot. It looks to be in a good spot. So I don't think that Thibodeau is the long-term answer, but I think he is a guy that you can sign for fairly cheap and short because he is a guy that right now he is in the NBA world
basically.
Still.
Yeah, he's floating around.
I don't think he would pass up a job to be an NBA head coach and still get a skin on the wall because if he's able to at least right the ship in New York, that's going to be a win for him. Not maybe NBA championship levels, but it is something that is going to be seen as like, well, Thibodeau did a great job.
I think the thing that again, the hypothetical, if he had landed this job, or if he lands this job, is he has to take in the lessons he learned from Chicago and from Minnesota is that his offensive schemes, again, do not fit the modern NBA. But if you can figure out a way to either take the advice of someone on that assistant coaching staff who has better setups, or maybe he just, didn't have the right personnel to make it work. I think a lot of the problems in Minnesota were, about the involvement of Cat and how to run an offense through a big who can space the floor versus running it through a traditional point guard where they're kind of deficient at with Jeff Teague. They're having some issues, playing with Wiggins on his high usage, but also inefficient shooting. So different challenges because different personnel, but if he gets someone in there and he can take their advice as far as how to get the most offensively, the defense, the effort, everything you want to see is going to be fixed. And I think that's the thing. Like, this is a Knicks team who you've been watching the morale drop game over game as they're getting blown out, and Fizdale on the sidelines trying to smile and high five guys and be a player's coach. It's not there when you're losing by 40. I'm sorry, you can't be that guy.
Well, and that's the thing that I think of is I've got a candidate like where Sean says Thibodeau might not be the guy for the future. You explained it as the Mark Jackson case. I actually have in my mind, a better hire than Tom Thibodeau. As maybe not a Mark Jackson, probably in that role, because I don't know if he wins a championship with them, but most times you throw out a former player and people go, no, I don't want it. But
are you throwing out Ewing?
I think the time is right for Patrick Ewing. No. And the reason why is I look at it, number one, look at what he's done with Georgetown. I mean, in college ranks, he's turned them around. They're not completely in the NCAA tournament, but they're a lot better than what they used to be. Again, another program that he knows very well, that back when we were kids, they were a powerhouse. They were an NCAA tournament team. He's getting them back up there. He's also a guy that he can work with these young kids and go, hey, I know what it's like to be in the Mecca. I know what it's like to have the pressure, and I know what kind of work it takes to get where you want to go. Like, I feel like with Patrick Ewing, he might be the one that Knick fans will love it. He can work with the young player because your roster is younger, not older. And I feel like he might be the right choice for New York as a city and New York as a team.
We love keeping things hashtag on the court here. However, I think that Patrick Ewing is not going to be held in a good light because of what's happening right now with his Georgetown program.
See, but here's the thing about that.
No, let me say what's going on for people who are uninformed before you say that. right now, 3 Georgetown players have left the team, while 2, and then they were forward Josh LeBlanc and teammates Gallon Alexander and Myron Gardner. They were linked to reports of sexual assault, harassment, and burglary. 2 women on campus filed restraining orders against LeBlanc. There's a ton of stuff despising allegations, and but they were saying that the 3 players burglarized a fellow Georgetown student. They took a PlayStation 4, a Nikon camera, a camera lens, a pair of Bape shoes, with an estimated of $1,600 in damages. I think it's completely messy what's happening with this program right now. The sexual assault stuff is not good as well. There's not many details about that right now, but
here's
that's
the thing.
That's not a good look for Patrick Ewing.
This is where it's the first thing I think of is the Art Briles situation at Baylor. That you could pin on Art Briles because it was like, oh, we knew about it. Let's just sweep it under the rug. And of course, you said all the details aren't out, but everything I've seen of analysts talking about what's going on at Georgetown right now, when they talk about Patrick Ewing, every single one of them has been like, he did the right, like he was as soon as it happened, they didn't leave the team. He said, "You're off the team. Like you're not playing. You're suspended."
That's what you do. I mean, if your guys are accused
you say no. You say that's what you do, but let's be honest. How many coaches have actually done that?
When there's allegations and stuff like that, that's just being a decent person.
I know.
Like I'm not gonna pat Patrick Ewing on the back. Who recruited these people?
Who went after
and who have these guys been under as their coach? It's a bad look for Patrick Ewing. Just because he kicked them off the team doesn't mean like he should be celebrated through the streets of Washington D.C.
Even though this topic's not about that, I'll just say it's just unless it was an Art Briles situation of he's covering it up.
Okay,
you can't put someone else's a kid's mistake on an adult. I feel like Ewing could be a guy that holds the young players on New York accountable.
They are adults, but still.
Well, I mean, they're not pros. That's what I'm.
But they're still they're
still over
adults.
18. Yeah.
And they made their own choices. But Myron Gardner was recruited by Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
Galen Alexander, recruited by Patrick Ewing. Josh LeBlanc, recruited by Patrick Ewing. I don't think it's a good look to have 3 guys that you recruited, that you went to their homes, that you interviewed, that you went through, and you promised to bring into your school, then X amount of days or X amount of months into the season being under your program, then committed this crime. Maybe it's just a bad case of 3 bad eggs, but I don't think it's a good look for Patrick Ewing. And I'm not saying that it's his fault, but I think it's going to be tough, at least right now, for him to get a job with that stuff happening in his program. I think that he's going to have to prove that it was just 3 bad eggs rather than something else. I just don't think that Patrick Ewing's going to get a job off that. And I don't think it's the right time, too, because I don't think this franchise is set up in the right place to succeed, Dave. I don't think this team has all of its players yet. I don't think this is a Mark Jackson situation yet where if you hire the right coach like a Steve Kerr, he could take it and run and take them to championships, right? I don't think the culture's been set up there.
Right.
I don't think it's the time for them to take a step forward. I think it's time to at least get their legs underneath them first before they start to run. I don't know if Ewing might be the guy to help them run. I don't know if he's the guy to help them walk yet.
You need a coach that's going to be able to work with young talent.
But do you think? Where do you think this team is at, and how do you think they can get to a place where they can start walking?
I mean, this is a team that you have basically 3 building blocks, maybe a couple more if you're super positive about some guys, but it's already in a torn down state. You have 4 power forwards who basically were like, hey, maybe we can play them enough that somebody will be interested in them. We can pick up some more talent to trade them out for. Like long term, like it's building blocks. So I think the expectation should be low for the next 2 years. I think it should be, can we get close to 500? Can we win 35 games a season? Might be next year's goal. And there's nothing wrong with that, but the expectations have to be that way so you can have a new coach coming in and not get the immediate firing, talks come up. And I think that's the big focus is we're talking about we want someone like Becky Hammond to come into a situation where she can succeed and prove people who are incredibly closed-minded wrong, and this is an opportunity for women. They can coach men's basketball teams. It's not anything. There's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing preventing them from more and more of them coming into the league. Same thing with like Patrick Ewing. If he has the chance, be great for another ex-player to come into the league, go back home and win. But my big focus is, look, you've got to have the right media mentality, and New York is so quick to jump on things. It's a little sketchy. Do you have that time to build around? Do you have that time to turn it around? I don't know. I look at what they've got right now, and Mike Miller, not that Mike Miller, and look, he's in good company. He is.
I love how that's now a thing. Mike Miller, not that Mike Miller.
That's his name now forever. He's in good company. He was a former coach of the year in the G League. Guess who else is a former coach of the year in the G League? Nick Nurse. Guess who else is a former coach of the year in G League? Quinn Snyder. Guess who else? Jerry Stackhouse, who coaching Vandy right now. But you wonder. We all wanted him to get a job last year in the pros. I'm just saying, like, we're talking about all these outside guys having an opportunity to come in and coach. I think you let him, obviously the rest of this year, he's going to be the interim coach, right? That's his official designation. They didn't officially sign him.
He's the interim.
Okay.
This isn't a
bull situation where you were gifted the head coaching job before doing a damn thing. Fuck you, Jim Boylan. I think you let him play it out and see what he does. Like, maybe he has an opportunity where his voice can be heard. Maybe that he has the ability to get something more out of these players. And if things look good, I want him up for consideration for this job because, again, you look at the pedigree of G League coaches who have success, guys who work around young talent, who need to be molded, who need to be shaped. That's exactly the kind of guy you want running this team.
And I don't know Mike Mills. Mike Miller. Sorry, I'm thinking.
Meek Mills?
I just combined Steve Mills and Mike Miller to make the REM basis Mike Mills. But Mike Miller.
Yeah.
At least looking at his credentials, yes, he had some success in the G League, but he was only like a little above 500 in the G League. It wasn't like he was crazy successful there. Right. You look at his D1 coaching career at Texas State, he was 52.4% win percentage.
Right.
And then when he was in Eastern Illinois, he had a 36.6% win percentage from 2005 to 2012. So he had a lot of chances and opportunities in D1 and in the G League, and it wasn't like he was setting the world on fire.
I get that.
Nick Nurse was able to bring a culture change and an idea change to take the analytics that they've been working and what he's seen, at least as a younger coach, and implement that into success for a team.
Yep.
Jerry Stackhouse is a guy that had massive success as a player, knows how to reach these coaches, these kids. Mike Miller wasn't a former player.
Yeah.
And then with Quinn Snyder as well, he was a guy that worked under Coach K. I can't say
Krzyzewski.
Yeah, fuck that. Coach K.
Yep.
He was a guy that worked under Coach K. So I don't know if Mike Miller has the pedigree to be a guy like the guys that you threw out that were G League coaches.
Yep. I'm even saying, like, I would love Jerry Stackhouse to take a shot. I know Vanderbilt is a good job, but again, it's I wish Jerry Stackhouse would be an NBA coach. I'm disappointed that nobody gave him a chance. I think that he's someone you should look at as, again, I love former players becoming coaches, and he has the brains for it. And if you look at the Raptors roster right now, how are they so successful post Kawhi Leonard leaving? Well, the front office in
Masai Ujiri. That's one I can say.
I've always flipped the M and the U for some reason. But yeah, Masai Ujiri, and that front office has been so great at finding those perfect prospects. And then that G League squad has just been churning up players, guys who are undrafted free agents, guys who they can bring in and work with. And Jerry Stackhouse was a part of that in the past years. So I look at him as someone who, maybe if you tag him into that coaching search, I'd be very interested in that.
Yeah, I think that with all of that, I think Stackhouse is a name that would be interesting, and I think another name it would be interesting too is Penny Hardaway. He's doing a great job right now in Memphis.
Leave Penny alone.
But I think with those guys, I don't know how intriguing the NBA would be then, because right now they are free of an owner. They are getting a ton of money from Vanderbilt and Memphis because of their name and how good of a coach they are.
No, I get that.
It's kind of what Lincoln Riley's dealing with Oklahoma right now. Do you want to go to a professional team when you're likely going to make similar money at the college program? And what I think Saban has said all along at Alabama is, in the NBA, you get one first rounder each and every year, and 2 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Where you get 5 if you're a very good, NBA coach or college coach.
Even look at Jim Harbaugh. College, went to the pros, didn't want to deal with the owner in San Fran anymore.
Jed York didn't want to deal with Jim Harbaugh either.
On both sides, there was a tenuous relationship. Fuck it, I'm going back to college instead of dealing with that again.
College, you do get the control. You get the ability to recruit the players you want to get. You get to work with them. And it's big fish, small pond kind of situation. The NBA, not only is it all the things you mentioned, but also it's that time to execute, though. It's the additional pressure of, like, look, if I can go into any situation and, I've got my plan ready, I've got this. But if you have one injury to a specific player and then your season doesn't go well, guess what? You're on the hot seat. Like, there is not time to gather yourself, get on your feet and build that up. And that's the situation. People want results so quickly at the NBA level, where in college, you have the chance, like, goddamn, who were you just talking about? Georgetown. Patrick Ewing had the chance to come in and right the ship, and he's third year at Georgetown right now.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I think it was Patrick Ewing who, as a assistant coach in the NBA, fell asleep on the sideline. Like, he's had hilarious things. Like,
he was with the Magic, though.
Getting distracted by cheerleaders kind of thing. Like, shit like that was always hilarious. But yeah, no, he went to college and he's doing well for himself. I look at that and I think it's a totally different situation. So with the Knicks situation, I'm kind of hamstrung because my expectations would be like, let's hope for somebody who can right the ship. I like the idea of going with someone who, either an authoritarian like Tom Thibodeau, like you mentioned, or someone who works with player development and give them time. But that's the question is, what's best for the Knicks right now?
And real quick, I just want to clarify with the Ewing thing just one final time. I'm not saying that he's a bad coach, and I'm not saying that he caused the problems at Georgetown.
Right.
I'm just saying that with that in the news, with that just happening at his program,
could be a media firestorm.
I don't know if it's a media firestorm. Don't finish my sentences.
Okay.
I know how to speak. Don't worry. I'll get there. I just don't think it's a good look for him right now, because those are guys that he recruited. Those are guys that were under his program, and while he did do the right thing to get them off the team immediately, I just don't think that's a good look for him, and I think it's something that he would have to work out of, because I think right now it's just kind of a rock that he's underneath, and I don't think that right now, 3 years into your program, you have 3 guys committing a massive crime. Like, it's kind of like the UCLA guys with Lonzo Ball's brother, like, stealing stuff in China. Like, is that on the who's the former UCLA coach before McCronin got hired?
Alford.
It's Steve Alford, but you just had 3 bad eggs, but that was because look at Alford's track history. Like, you didn't have any of those other guys.
Urban Meyers had guys on Florida. I remember the stolen shit out of dorm rooms. Even like the Aaron Hernandez shit. Like
Jameis Winston.
I mean, there's a lot of great college coaches. I mean, football, you have a lot more players, so it's a little bit harder to get to that point, but again, it's not entirely on the coach, but the coach is the guy who brings in guys, who tries to set the locker room level of, this is who we are as a team, this is our responsibility as college athletes. And I think keeping to a code of conduct, at least he did come out and, punish the players for moving from the situation.
I just don't think right now it is the time for Patrick Ewing, and I don't think this story is going to help his coaching candidacy. Something that he could definitely coach out of for sure. Let's go into what the plan will be and wrap this up. So, Ricky, take me through the rest of 2019, 2020. What is this Knicks team going to look like throughout the actual regular season? What are their off-season moves, and who do you think is coaching this team in 2020, 2021?
Off-season, like, we've talked about it before. Like, there's not a lot. Like, this is not going to be the free agent class that we saw last year. So, really, the first thing you got to do is set up that who's going to be your head coach. And with me, I'd play out the regular season. I'd see what Mike Miller has. He'd be my candidate one to he gets an interview. You play out the season. You interview Mike Miller. I have a set of guys that I would interview. Probably my top 5 would be, if I'm giving one slot to Miller, I would give one slot to Mark Jackson, one slot to Patrick Ewing, one slot to Kenny Smith, because he interviewed with the team back in 2018. And then I would give an interview or extend an interview to Jay Wright over at Villanova. I feel like he could be a guy. He's been at Villanova a while, since basically the turn of the decade, or the turn of the millennia, I should say, in 2001.
Wow.
He's been there that long.
So long.
2001-02 was his first season at Villanova, and he's been there ever since. He's a guy that I don't know if he wants to leave Villanova. I don't know if it could be a Brad Stevens type of situation. I only say that because good college coach comes over, and I think can have success in the NBA.
Different, though, because of how long Jay Wright's been there.
The one coach, though, that I'll say I do not want them to hire is Dave Yeager. And the reason why I feel like if they hire Dave Yeager, we have a Fizdale situation all over again because expectations will be way too high because it's Dave Yeager.
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
I feel like Yeager would be in the Fizdale mode of, hey, he can turn it around quickly.
Gotcha.
We're not going to give you
Yeah,
time because you can turn it around quicker. Look at what you did with the Kings. You can turn it around quick, right?
I think Yeager would be interesting just because he has had success with younger teams before, and he has had success quickly. But I agree with Ricky that I don't think that's the right hire. It just seems like a get-quick thing again, and I don't think
Slap the Band-Aid
Yeager
on.
is a culture setter because clearly he's been fired from 2 jobs for having success.
Being a
so
dick.
that's a huge red flag.
being
So
a
I
dick.
don't think you should bring in Dave Yeager.
Yeah, not every organization is meant for it, but again, it could be the James Dolan, match fire with fire situation. I don't know. It could be interesting. I don't know. For me, I look at this as see if not Steve Mills. Oh my God, I'm doing it. Mike Miller, not that Mike Miller, can do anything different this season. He's got 60 games left this season. Let's see what he can do. Let's see if their offense puts together any semblance of a system. Let's see if they figure out how to not, switch on every single possession defensively. Like, if he can get something more out of them, I'm 100% for giving him an interview for the job. I think he should be one of the first guys. I think Stackhouse should be up there. I think Becky Hammond. I think Tom Thibodeau. And let's put in a fifth, maybe. I don't know. I think there's a lot of names, but I don't know. I would start with those 4.
Yeah, he's got 60 games exactly. They've played 22 games so far.
Perfect.
So he'll get 60 games. I would be surprised if they won more than 10 games in that span. I think that they're probably gonna be a 14-win team.
No, I know they're.
What are you
they're
looking
historically bad.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think this team's gonna be. I mean, I think this team's gonna be top 5 in the lottery at least.
100%.
I mean, I doubt that they're. It'd be tough to see them outside of top 3.
Yeah.
I don't think
here's
Mike
the deal
Miller's going
is-
to change everything.
With him, no, I agree. He's not going to change the franchise overnight. The thing is, with the front office, can they get a good deal to move Marukes Morse out of town? Can they get a good deal? Is anyone interested in someone like Julius Randle? Is anybody interested in some of these pieces? So they might, like you said, only win 14, 15 games this season. But if you can get a return on those investments, that's absolutely worth it at this point in time. And again, set you up for if next year we looked at the people available, there's a couple people, maybe I would throw out some Nets-esque deals of like, I'll give you a fuck ton of money to come here. And if you don't, the team that keeps you as an RFA has to pay up and we're in a better situation the following year, kind of a deal. And then set yourself up, if nobody signs there, go short term, another set of like 1-and-1s with people and hope for that 2021 class to really mix things up. So that's my plan, at least. I would go low expectations. This is all about getting young talent, trying to get back additional picks in this year's draft, because I think this year's draft is going to be loaded. So, yeah, it's add more young talent and try to get value back on your short-term signings.
Yeah, I think that it will be difficult to see this team winning over 20 games. And I think Mike Miller is not the guy of the future. A lot of the guys that have had success that were G League coaches and then interim coaches were guys that, we haven't seen an interim coach have a lot of success in a very long time. I can't remember the last time because I think even Ty Lue wasn't an interim coach. He was the head coach right away. That'd be the only guy that I can think of that was fired mid-season and then had great success. I don't think this is something that is going to be a changing of culture, and we're going to see the Knicks turn it up. I think that looking for a trade should be something that they do. I don't know how successful it will be. Randall's on a 4-year deal, and I don't know how interesting he is to teams because of that contract. I think Marukes signed a 4-year deal as well. I could be wrong on that. It could have been 215.
I'm just about racking them real quick.
It's tough because he signed 2 deals. He signed a deal with the Spurs and then
Way
pulled
to fuck
out.
the Spurs over. Congratulations.
I think it might have been 230 and 15 a year. I could be wrong on that. He could be a guy that could be interesting.
4-year. Oh no, that was his previous. Hang on. Yeah, it's a 15 mil and then undrafted free agent. It's a 1-year 15.
1 year 15.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe he was getting two 2 years 30 from the Spurs or something like that. That's what I could be remembering. So being an expiring deal, that could be a thing. I mean, right now, I think at least 2019, 2020, it's just signaling what Scott Perry can do. I think he's fighting for his job because he's probably the guy that's not on the hot seat. And if he does a good job being able to get assets for this team and is able to move some of these players that might not help you in the long term, that could be something that could, at least be something to watch for Knicks fans for this future.
Randall's got next year at 18.9 and the following year at 19.8. Bobby Portis is on a club option next year for $15 million, which there's no way in hell they're going to accept.
Yeah.
And then Taj Gibson has a $9 million.
Portis could be a guy too to watch out because, I don't know how easy it will be to move his contract right now this year, but the fact that he's got a club option pretty much just makes it a 1-year deal.
Yep.
And Bobby Portis off the bench could be someone that
he's
at
a
least
great
can make
bench
an
scorer.
impact.
That's the problem. They've got between him and Julius Randle. You got two small ball fives who can be amazing bench options.
I think Randle could be a starter still. I wouldn't put him as a bench option.
We've seen the most success out of him when he's playing small ball.
He was a starter last year and was really good.
Well, that's because they had injuries.
Okay, and he was
Anthony
still
Davis
really good at it.
He was coming off the bench.
He was still, but he was playing at a level that I think he still would have started.
He was scoring at a level.
He was defending too. Julius Randle was great last year. Get the fuck out of here. But what I think is going to happen is I think that Thibodeau is going to be hired at the end of the season. I think he's going to be the coach for 2 years, and then I think that what they're going to try to do is obviously see what they got in R.J. Barrett in those 2 years and see if he is the star.
Yep.
I don't think Frank Ntilikina is going to be on this team in 2 years. I don't think that Alonzo Trier is going to be on this team in 2 years. I don't think that. I think really
Kevin
the only
Knox?
two guys that are. I think the only two guys that are going to be safe are Mitchell Robinson and R.J. Barrett. I should probably just put it that way.
Yeah, that's fair.
Those are the two guys that I think at least after Thibodeau go through his 2 years, those are the two guys that I would be like, all right, those guys at least have a shot to be on this roster. Other than that, I think you need to clean the system. Steve Mills should be fired at the end of the season, and I think that you need a complete culture change in New York, and I think it needs to be effective as soon as possible, and I think the smartest thing to do would just be doing it after the season.
I've got a weird sense of jealousy over New York right now.
Yeah, because they're actually doing things that we should be doing.
Yep. I wish I was in your shoes right now.
Save it for super fans.
Yep.
Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below about the New York Knicks. Who do you think they should hire? What do you think about Patrick Ewing? What do you think about Tom Thibodeau? What do you think about Becky Hammond? Let us know down in the comments below. We know Knicks fans are very passionate and very vocal, so this might be a very active comment section. But let us know down in the comments below what you think.